We looked at Power Automate, didn't we? Actually, what goes on in terms of the theory and what we can do to start to really automate our refresh cycles and our builds as well using Power Automate. But what else can we do? Hi, my name's Ross, the creator and founder of Geordie Consulting and Geordie Intelligence, the YouTube channel you're watching right now. Let's take a moment today and have a look at actually the realities of putting together those Power Automate logs especially. So we kind of mentioned that you could use Power Automate to drive everything that goes on in your data set and to move it all forward. What we also showed is that we're using it to trigger that whole move from Power Automate service, so Power Automate desktop to Power Automate service, a little log file that's entered into. And that kind of thought, well, should we not do more? Let's have a look and see what else could we do in terms of really what are the flavors of logs that we have available to us with Power Automate. And then you can kind of have a look, see, well, which one do we want to use within our organization and take it from there. Before we proceed though, please take a moment, like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to be sure to watch some of the extra videos that we've got around. And also help me. Take some time, leave a comment, let us know what challenges you're facing, what you think you would like us to do, where you think the channel should be going as we get ready for the next season. So here we are, okay, SharePoint, where kind of a lot of these things all begin. So firstly, let's remind ourselves, what kind of are we talking about? What's the situation we've got going on here? So what we have right now is we've got this file here, okay? And I'll look at this done one, which is the old one. So this was the one predating everything that we did. Oh my goodness me, whose bright idea was it to put Copilot in a notepad? For crying out loud. Okay, so this goes through and it just tracks. And the point we want to do is to track how long it took to run the flow. Okay, it's not ideal. I don't like it. It didn't really work, but you could kind of get that point. At the end of the run, it would write it down, fire it off. That's then a row is added to that file, it saves it, job done. And then because it's been saved, it then triggers. We've got a Power Automate job that's sitting there waiting for that file has now been updated. I'm going to use that as the trigger, which will then lead to the main refreshes of the Power BI service data. So we've got something that works really well already, but it's the more we can do. And how we go about setting that up? So what I thought is, if we come back to here, I'm going to start here by right-clicking on my document library for our Parkrun data set. I'm just going to create a new folder. Let's call it logs. Let's do it all lowercase just to keep it easy. Give it a color if you want. Let's go with purple. Okay. So we've got a folder now, logs. So we've got the logs file or the logs folder created. What we're going to do is we're going to go into it because unfortunately this is one of those things where you have to pre-stage the file for it. This is probably why I don't do the file ones very often, but it's worth knowing that it is available to you. So we're going to go, not there, right click, create a new little text file. This is going to be weekly 1. Okay, so you can see it's empty. Let's go back. Weekly 2. Nope. And then lastly, we'll do add new weekly 3. Okay, so you pre-stage the files, and the reason is just the components of Power Automate has, they don't like, well, there's no file. You kind of have to have a file. You can go through and do a whole error handling bit, but it takes a lot longer, and that's just going to be the first time you'd run it, isn't it? So if you want to create files, you can do that as well, which, you just go and say create a file. That's often the way it's the easiest. You just need to make sure you're going to give it a date for it. So for something like our Power Automate jobs that are going to go through, we could turn around and say, we could come up with a naming convention that would be appropriate for the event. So get like kind of the last date that we've got for a parkrun from somewhere, which is kind of the problem because we don't have the latest parkrun date anywhere. So you've kind of got to think through a few of these things. And then you'd be able to create a file for each one. And the reason why I'm saying we have to think is because you want to write it back. So you might have to use the date, today's date, and the refreshes, and it would say, right, this is the file I've read, files read, processed, written, and just have that as a big log that's building up as it goes through and gets written back periodically, or that gets written as it goes. But in Power Automate Desktop, you have a very different write structure compared to the service. The service's write structure is a lot less. So then we come over into Power BI Desktop, and then in Power BI Desktop, if you remember, what we're keen on and what we want to look at really is, and I've lost my mouse, is these three here. Okay, so kind of weekly one, which is based on the file that's been updated, triggers it, that's why it's one icon, and then 2 and 3, which are based on data flow completions, which then triggers the second bit. So it's data flow 2 or 3, 2 triggers the third one. So weekly refresh 2, it triggers that, and then weekly refresh 3 is where it goes through and refreshes a semantic model. So there's method to the madness. So what we would need to do is go in to say here for the weekly, and we could say, well, we want to edit this. And then what we want to do is we probably need to get the file. We need to get file content. Right, these things are never as easy as you'd like them to be. These things are from there, and then we're going to browse to where it's going to be, which is in the shared documents, logs. And this is going to be weekly 1. So it's going to read in the content of that, which is then going to place that somewhere. So from here, we can then go to data operations, where we've got the append or the compose. And so for this, what we want to compose is we want the file content, and then we'd look to build something. So this is where we would say, so let's do a text function here. Can we piece together what we want? I really don't want to do this because this is something that's just going to drag on and on. So these ones, it works, but you can see it gets finicky very quickly. There will be times where it's the right thing to do. So as I say, like we're doing with our main desktop-based refresh part, where it's going through using Power Automate Desktop, reading lots of files, that's something where you probably want to have that file level recording, say, well, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. So you've got that up-to-date position that we're up to. Might make sense. For this, though, what we'd really look at say is record that it's happened, record that it's not happened. And that's where file content possibly isn't the right way to go. So what we'll do is let's come back out of here. Let's say we're not going to save it. Sure you want to, yes, we want to leave without saving, don't we? Let's just double check I haven't saved it. Yeah. Okay. So we're there. Okay, so option 1, it will work, but you've got to kind of think about what you're doing with it. So the other option, the one which is often better, is this one. Okay, so what we can do is we can hit, we can come through, and we've got tracked events here. It's kind of an example. We can build a list. So we've come back to home, and the new, we can see we're going to add a new list. Okay, it's going to be a simple list. It's going to be refresh logging. Double G, isn't it? Okay. We can choose to show it in site navigation or hide it. Doesn't really make any difference. I'll leave it showing, so it'll make it easier for me to find it while we're talking about it. We've got a title. What we need to do then is to add in text. We could put in place anything that you wanted here, really. This is the thing, it's one of those where we could put in a date field where we're going to put in, this is when it happened. We can put in all sorts, but if you think when it writes, it's going to record the creation date. Do you need a date given that it's going to write it in and say this has happened? So we'll put in a text field. Dates, something like that, okay? We've got kind of two things that we need to do. Right. So title, status. Title's always a bit of an odd one because SharePoint treats title as a special one, so you might want to hide it. Don't delete title, please. It causes all sorts of problems. You can just have to append it with all the stuff and then hide it in the views. Just whatever you do, kind of be aware. It's a special one. It's painful if you delete it, but it is possible. But yeah, we'll leave it as is, or should we put in, we'll put another one. Let's put in a number. Trigger state. No. You got the picture, haven't you? So we create a SharePoint list. What we can do then is we can come back to our data flow. This time we'll go in, edit here. We're going to create this, and we're going to, under SharePoint, okay, we want to add an item. List folder. I'm not seeing it. Create item. That's one. Okay, so we're going to create an item. Pick the right place. So it is going to be here. Pick the right list. See, we've got the refresh loggings there. It's that simple. We've got some extra things we need to say. So what do we want? We want to put in here. We want to put in the trigger state and put a title in. Okay, so title for here. This will be weekly one. Onto a refresh. Status. Execute. Stating this is where you could decide 100, for example, for good. Okay, so you could have this sort of thing that you decide internally. You can have it as a drop down. You can have all sorts of things around here. Just wanted to kind of show you what we could do. So we'll save that. Okay, so then what we could do is we could Control C, Control V. Not Control V, can we? It doesn't work. We create an item again. Okay. Pick the same thing again. So we want this to be Jasmine Dean Park Run. It's going to be tracked events. It's going to be this. Okay, so this is weekly one. One is refresh. 100. Executed. Okay. So we've kind of got this now, haven't we? Execute and executed. No. Execute. Okay, so those two will then trigger and run those log files. So if we save this now, and I say test, let's just do it automatically with a recent trigger, pick the one from a few days ago, run that. Okay, so it'll start again. It's going to go through, it'll refresh the data flow, and it's updated the item. So we can see that it's added an item. So now if we come through to here and we refresh this, see we've got a log file. We've got this starting to build up. So over time, this can add lots of information. But as I say, it doesn't look like it's everything you'd want. But what we can do is we can then come through here, all items, let's edit this view. Let's see what else is available to us. So what we've also got here, you see, is we can see the created date. It's been created. Let's see created by, see what it actually says. So we're going to pick it as me. Might well do. Okay. Always forget to do that. So let's see. So we've got created by, created there. Oh, we have done, yeah. Okay. So yeah, so we can see it's created about a minute ago. So we have a date, time, period for when it was created. So we know when this was done. So we've got our log built. This is now going to be able to record the build, what's happened. Created by probably isn't going to be much use. I mean, we know this is done by me, it's running as this, but it would be a service principal, it would be a service account, depending on what you're doing with your business. So you might see that's not great, might be of use though. It's always there. So it's well worth seeing the options that you've got and that are available. Okay. Yeah. So you can build this up, and obviously over time, we've got weekly 1, weekly 2 there. We could easily go through, if we come back to here, here, and let's come out here. Can we go back? And go into here. Can we cancel this? Yeah, cancel. Okay, so let's cancel that. So we could go through into our back to my flows. We could look at the second one, edit that, then again in here where we've got this, we've got the options. We could actually have 2 different outputs, couldn't we? We could have one saying, well, this was a failure. So our false could be here, that under false, refresh that, and then we're saying for our create item, here, going back to here, into the list that is the top one. Let's have a look at title. There we go. There, blah, blah. We just say weekly there, and let's go. No success. Status, retry. Weekly 1. Trigger state, let's say that's 900 for a reboot. We could say, okay, whatever you want to do. Okay, and we can then save that. And then we would add another one similar to the one we had before for that. So you can piece together an awful lot that goes on, and you can then also start to use your trigger states. As I say, either you use numbers, you could put values that it's success, failure, those kind of things, whatever you want. You can then trigger, because SharePoint List have different colors. You can also trigger automations against the list, because when items are created, if they have a particular code, send an alert to somebody. So we've got a lot of capability that's baked into this that really is why we have to talk about this as a separate week's video, because I think it builds up very quickly. That you piece these together, you will add rows and rows and rows into there. You need to remember as well that within Power BI, within SharePoint, you've got kind of the concept of about, 2,000 to 3,000 rows. I know it's supposed to be 5,000, but in practice, I see it's around 2,000 to 3,000. We start to get some issues. So from a view perspective, you probably want to be filtering your view to being like the last 28 days only, so that you're restricting the full amount that's coming back. But you can certainly have all of your data flows across your organization flowing into one list. That's not a problem. You can work out how you want those to be structured and what tool set you want people to use. That's fine. You can simplify it, write down the documentation. This is what you need to do to get this to work. And then from there, don't forget, because we've got a SharePoint list, we could go and create a Power BI report about our refresh cycles that are going on. And because you've got a nice, easy view, it's nice and easy. If you don't go down that route, you've then got to start thinking about how do we go and bring back more than X thousand rows of data, which is fine, but it's just one which can become painful because you have to kind of batch it and work out how you're going to batch and page through. Finally, we've got this bit to talk about, haven't we? So I mentioned that we can set stuff up to do things based on updates as we go through, because I'd like to get the Jesmond Dean Parkrun report back. Now, this is what we've got going on at the moment. And if you remember, which you might not have done, might not have watched the past season. But in the past season, one of the things we did was we made sure that every parkrun, every event had a different folder. That was the way we did it in the SharePoint library. And that added technical debt, because add an event meant you had to add a folder, do something in the list. Whereas now what we've done is we actually just append the URL of the parkrun into the file name. So that's how we divide it up. So now what we can do is say, right, we've got this to do. What we've also got, and let's get tracked events up here. In the tracked events here is we have an include flag now. Okay. So these are all saying no, because these have all now run through and being processed. Okay. The exception being time more juniors, which of course the juniors, we're not doing juniors anymore. Stop doing them for now. Again, it's an issue I need to fix at some point, is working out the best way to do juniors, because we need to remove names, we need to do all sorts of things like that. And that'll have a big knock-on effect as well across the whole of our data set, because really we need to do that and roll it out across everything, because people can go everywhere. Juniors can go to main 5K events. So we should be doing the same, that sort of thing. So we're trying to work through what that needs to look like. And again, let me know down below if you think, hey, I'd love to see you work through that one and actually do that as a long form video. But what we've got here is the include flag. So when everything has been refreshed for an event, it then marks it as don't include this anymore. The reason for that is if we have to restart the refresh or the data pull, we go to the last event that we haven't completed. Okay. And that isn't a junior as well. So that's the logic that goes on. So what it means is we have a point where there's a flag set. So this included is set to no. So there's an update happening there. So what we can do is we could say, well, let's go based on that. Let's copy the URL. Right, let's go Control C it just because it's easier. Okay, and then back in our data flow, we could change the trigger. Okay, and this is actually quite an interesting one. So the current trigger we've got is this, but let's go with it. Let's start a brand new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this off. So we turned it off. Simple. We're just going to go, let's create a data flow. We're going to create, it'll be an automated cloud flow. Just thinking through it. This is going to be when an item is created or modified. Okay. Specific targets. We'll say refresh strip targets. Because I was thinking, if you remember back to last week's video, so potentially we could do Newcastle, we could do North Tyneside, we could do other ones as they went through and process those up. We could even do ones right at the end, like County Durham or something like that. But just actually then targeting specific things that will do a specific focus and for focused report. We're going to hit create. Okay, so it's going to say, give me the right parameters. So in this case, we know it's going to be parkrun. We're going to run this against the tracked events list. Okay, we've got that. So then this is where the fun starts. What we then need to do is add switch. Okay, so we're going to add a switch in here. So what a switch will do let's switch one. Hang on. Yeah. So what we want is where URL. So on URL. Yeah. Okay. So where switch equals. That's what we need to do. Jasmine Dean. Okay. So where equals Jasmine Dean, we can then, for this, I'm just going to refresh Power BI dataset. Okay. So we know this dataset isn't the right one, but, or rather it's still on the old version. But we can do that. So what we would do is we go back to our Jasmine Dean Parkrun. This is still old. And we pick Jasmine Dean 2.0. Okay, so 3.0 is what will have to come through next. So we'll pick Jasmine Dean 2.0. We could then rename this so it's not case, but Jasmine Dean, or of course you could just paste the URL again. Okay, so we've got some clarity on here. We could add another one. So if you remember, we said Denton Dean. Let's go back to here. And the reason why I said Denton Dean is because that's the last of the Newcastle ones. Let's go to here. Make that, Control C. Let's come back to here. Equals Denton Dean. Denton Dean. Okay. So actually this wouldn't be Denton Dean, this would be Newcastle. Okay, and then again we could do similar where we were going to refresh a data set back through to Jasmine Dean Parkrun. And this time it's going to be Newcastle Parkruns. Okay. So we can say refresh Newcastle Parkruns. So we've got that logic that's going to go through and make sense and allow us to. I do not like it. There we go. Okay. So we piece together and we could keep adding these. Now, there was a few things I was thinking, should we do something else? Should we do something different? But really, and ultimately, this is really easy, isn't it? We're just going through and saying what's happened. We're going through and we're saying, if we needed to add something else, we could add a URL based on this. And it's just the logic of knowing, well, this is going to be the last in an area or it's a specific one that we want to look at. So we can see this is something that is infinitely scalable. And in terms of the logic, if it's something that needed, say, multiple things to happen or triggers, we could start them with that and then have subsequent ones downstream. So like we've got with our weekly, that will all work. So all I need to do now is save this and let this run. Okay. And so it'll run over the weekend. It'll go through, it'll pick these two up. So we've now moved from having multiple data flows that are doing different things based on folders to using something that's all tracking everything based on this tracked events list that we've got. Much more efficient, much easier, and it helps us lower that technical debt of having to remember all these additional steps to do to get extra bits set up. But we've still got to work out how should we piece these together. Is it going to be a multiple data flow scenario, given that our main production set is 3 data flows? Or should we be using 2? And my instinct is saying these 2 is the way we go, that we're going to use 2. And then that third one we will bake into the model. So we'll go through and we'll do that at some point. If you guys want to see it, say, let me know down below. So what do you think? Okay. Writing to files is possible. It's very cumbersome to do it in Power Automate Online. Okay. The Power Automate desktop client allows you to do it much easier. It isn't working on this device at the moment. It's really annoying. So I'd love to be able to open you, show you exactly what's going on. But yeah, to do it with the service side, you have to kind of open the item, do something, and then update the item, largely so you can append it, because you have to append the content and then write back the whole content. It's not perfect. Let's be honest, it really isn't. It would be nice to have just an append. Again, I think there's elements of premium in there. You could do the same with an Excel spreadsheet and append the spreadsheet. But again, I think that puts it into a premium license. We do have premium licenses for this, but it's one of these where for this, I don't really want to show you what we could do with premium. It would not justify buying premium subscriptions for Power Automate just so I could write text file logs. It doesn't swing for me. You can do it, as I say, with compose items to help you build and append the strings together. If you check on Copilot, do that sort of thing, it will really help you to go through and say, right, we're going to pull the file, add to the text to it, which is read the text, add this at the bottom of it, write the file back. Okay, it's completely inefficient. It's terrible. But hopefully these files are not going to get huge. As I say, if it's a case where we need to write lines and lines and lines at a time, we'd probably look to say, well, let's try and combine those lines into, so we've got less write events going back, because again, multiple write events causes all sorts of problems, especially when you start factoring in SharePoint Online and OneDrive and how those can interact and lock files at points as well. So it's useful. It will work if you have to have it working, but by far the easiest is lists. Okay, SharePoint lists, they are so simple to build these things. You can have all your logs coming together into one list, or you can have functional lists based on this is this data set that we're building, and have all the content that goes in for that going into one list that you can then pull the data out of, because there's nothing to stop you pulling multiple list data together into a global, this is our central log. It all works. It's just about defining the standards that you want within your organization that's going to meet your requirements. Once you've, of course, got something like that, we can turn around and say, what's the latest date for any data flow? So what was the latest date this happened? What's the latest date that happened? You've seen already that we had the success and failure of a data flow. So we've known this data is refreshed successfully or it hasn't. So we'd be able to say, when was the last time it succeeded? We've now had 5 failure events. We've had this, we've had that. We can use that to drive automation. We can put this in so that we've got a table of when was the last refresh of all the source data sources in our report pack. So we can see, oh, this area is stale. This is a problem. We need to do something. The risk I would say to that is your customers are potentially going to see that before IT because you've baked it into a report. It's not a bad thing, but there's an expectation to set with the client base that potentially they will see things before IT do. Not in a bad way, but just because you have that oversight, that visibility, you will see it. We have to act on the log files we get alerted for, and if we don't set up alerts around it, we wouldn't necessarily know that that data flow had failed 2 weeks in a row. We would need to figure out better ways to make sure that we've got stuff going through. And that might be where things like scorecards can really help you. If you think, pull the data set together, set the scorecard up, what was the latest value, what was the latest this, you can piece everything together. You just need to think about what it is you're doing. And that think is the most important part of Power BI, because it's never something that we've just got a book. And I've got books down there, they're just full of it. Those books are great in theory because they're theory. The practice is that whole think and consider how these books apply to my organization, to the structures that I need to put in place, and to the reporting needs that I need to meet. Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's made lots of sense to you. You're thinking, do you know what? I'm going to try that. I'm going to get these logs started going. I'm going to set up a SharePoint list. We're going to do it. It'll be awesome. Okay, it will be, and it is really useful once you start to put it in place and see how it works. For now, though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.